Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to this. I think it's called a Fireside Chat, but it's really more of a lunch and learn because everybody's having lunch. So we'll be up here talking and maybe learning something as well. I'm Goldie Chan, and this is Winnie's son. And we'll do, I guess, really brief intros about ourselves. So,
Okay.
Hi, I'm Goldie. I'm known as, hilariously, the Oprah of LinkedIn. So I'm one of the top content creators on the platform. And I also write for Forbes on personal branding and storytelling. And both myself and the amazing Winnie Sun are actually both part of the Adobe Insiders program. So we're ambassadors for Adobe.
Thank you, thank you. And she's actually such a big deal. For those of you who are on LinkedIn, she's got a really popular, if not the most popular video series on LinkedIn. And she is Daily Goldie, really popular. And actually, that's how we sort of connected initially. I had been watching her videos, and I decided to reach out, and we actually went to have spicy fried chicken, and that was like the beginning of a great friendship, right?
So I'm so glad that we're all talking while everyone is eating, because that's really how we connected.
Yes.
So number one networking tip, I think, is go have a meal with someone.
Go have a, I love that. That's
Yeah.
true. Well, it's so awesome to be here with all of you, and most importantly, because one of my best friends is in this room, I feel really happy to be here. So I am Winnie's son. Many of you probably have no idea who I am, and that's just fine. I'm actually considered the most influential female in the financial industry on social media today. Those of you who still watch traditional TV, thank you. I'm the regular money person on Good Day LA. I am on the CNBC Financial Advisor Council, and I am a longtime contributor on Forbes, as is Goldie, which is, you forgot to mention that part. So we both contribute to Forbes, and you know, although I do dabble on LinkedIn a little bit, and I've gotten a lot of great guidance from Goldie, really sort of my focus is, a lot of it's been on Twitter. Yeah,
Yes.
so I have the largest business tweet chat on Twitter.
So if anyone wants to follow Winnie's content on Twitter, first of all, definitely follow her at Winnie Sun, but also follow her hashtag, hashtag Winnie Sun. So pretty easy to remember. And join in on the tweet chat. It's super fun. And every week, when Winnie isn't traveling too much, it's such a good time. It's a great way to engage, and there's a really fun community on there. So if you're on Twitter, jump in, join in. It's a good time.
I would love to see you. We have a really amazing community, and we come together. People from all across the globe come together every single Wednesday on our coast here. It's 11 a.m. Pacific, so you could be in your PJs, you could be at work, and you would just have to get in Twitter, follow hashtag Winnie Sun, and you'll be with us. And we trend about 80–90% of the time, so it's kind of fun. Oh my goodness! I have so many friends here. I'm so happy.
Actually, this is a great time. I'm just so curious. Okay, so who has ever joined in or talked to Winnie on the interwebs before? Raise your hands. Okay, we have a few people. Who's ever consumed any of my LinkedIn video content before? Okay, a few more hands. Great, great. So today what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about sponsorships, but also branding, because I think part of getting to the point where we can have sponsorships is branding. And also, I have to say, Winnie just did a really great live stream with one of our mutual friends, AI Addison Zhang, on how you have a profitable brand. And that's really what we're going to talk about, I think, today, what the focus of our conversation will be. So Winnie works with so many great enterprise level brands, and I love her to tell us about some of them that she works with.
Thank you. Well, I do. I work with over half a dozen large Fortune 500 companies, mostly in the financial or travel space. So some of the brands you may have heard of include Sallie Mae, include Intuit, QuickBooks, TurboTax, Mint, Aflac, Hertz Rent-A-Car. I do some work. Gosh, I'm gonna apologize. I've worked with T-Mobile. I've done something with Epson printers, and I'm working, I don't know. It just depends. I'm doing also some social media work with LinkedIn as well. So Yeah, a lot of big brands, and I am their their key spokesperson. And most of the brands I work with, part of the arrangement I have with them is I am their major ambassador or spokesperson. So, like for example, on one brand it'll be one female influencer, and there'll be the male, and I'll usually be their designated female person, and so I take that responsibility very seriously, and it's been quite a blessing. And it really sort of started a few years ago, but it's really taken off this year. It's completely changed sort of my relationship with how I deliver content and information, but it certainly has made a big difference in my pocketbook too, to be completely honest with you. So it's been pretty awesome for a financial advisor, like the financial geek in the room, to be able to have people actually come up and want to partner with you has been sort of, I never expected it to happen.
And what's so fascinating about Winnie's brand too is that I heard her speak at Forbes 30 Under 30, and it was so fun because Winnie is kind of the social media maven of the financial world, because the financial industry is pretty conservative, and so not a lot of people really push that social media or that personal brand envelope. So I can't emphasize how much, guys, how impressive it is, all the brands that Winnie currently works with, and that she's the ambassador for all of those brands.
Well, you work with, I know you, and Goldie, you should jump in too, because I know you work with a lot of brands. And
Yes.
this is what's nice about it, is that we actually are friends, but sure, her focus is, I think, probably a lot broader. Mine's a lot more narrow.
I think it's helpful, just in general, guys, a note about friendship. It's so helpful when you're friends with somebody and your interests align, but you have slightly different brands. So Winnie obviously is on the financial side, and then I'm on LinkedIn / nerd side. So the brands that I partner with are slightly different. So like I said, we actually both work with Adobe, which I absolutely love. Last year I was a global brand ambassador for WeWork. I've worked with brands like Skype. I've worked with brands like I was an ambassador for the mayor of London's office. So I was an ambassador from the US, the US to the UK. I almost got that backwards. And I've worked with Lego as one of their speakers, and just so many fun brands. Wizards of the Coast, which does Dungeons and Dragons. So I definitely dive deep into the nerd world, but also into a lot of the B2B or B2C brands that want a more friendly face, so to speak, on top of their branding, who can speak intelligently about marketing or about personal branding. So it has been a really interesting ride to work with all of these wonderful, amazing, super cool brands and create content. And that's the other thing. I think it's really interesting to look at how two brands can be at the same event, and we can create radically different content. So
Right.
This is so cool. When Winnie and I both went to #Adobe Summit, which is their main event, the kind of video content that I was creating was very focused and tailored to my personal brand, as was the content that Winnie was creating. So that is definitely something I think is important to note. When you're thinking about especially pitching these big brands, these enterprise brands, it's really important to have your personal brand very narrowly focused and very clean and understandable. So brands know what they're going to get when they work with you. So they know that this is the product that they will always get, or this is the person that they will always work with. And it's very helpful for brands.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and more than that, we just had a great Facebook Live yesterday with who you had mentioned on her show, and talking about how to build a profitable brand. Because oftentimes, I think a lot of us were looking at people on social media creating sort of this larger than life persona. You think, wow, this person has such and such, hundreds of thousands of followers, they must be traveling the world. It's like the Instagram effect. But oftentimes you'll go to these social media conferences or events, and you'll realize that that's not always the case. I know plenty of large social media influencers that really can't even make rent. So I would say, before you jump into the world of wanting to be an influencer, is to get really good at what you do. Get really, really good and produce income outside of being an influencer. Like, I had a I've now been a financial advisor for 19 years. First 12 years, didn't even know what Facebook was. Okay, that's not true. I knew what it was, I just didn't think it was for me because I'm actually an extreme introvert. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know, we had something to fall back on. We had clients that literally, when we did our client events, they would come up and they would hug us and they would tear up and like, Winnie, you changed my life because the way you manage money for myself and my family, you changed my life. And that is what I wanted to bottle up, to put on social so that people would, it would be easier for me to find new clients. But I had that to fall back on. I had that as income to pay the bills, to provide for my team and my family. And social media was just sort of to amplify that, to make that bigger, but it didn't rely on social media for income. I think that's the key thing, because people always like, well, Winnie, you must do really well. You work with these huge brands and whatnot. I was like, I do, but the thing is, at any given time, you can be unpopular just as quickly as being popular. Yep. And you can quickly lose followers just as quickly as you can earn followers, right? And all of a sudden, like, I have some of the largest influencers in YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and whatnot are my personal clients. So it's kind of a unique experience. Not only am I what they are considered an influencer in the financial space, but so many of my clients are the biggest influencers on different platforms. They're my clients, so I actually help them manage their money and whatnot and consult for them. And so what we've learned is that, you know, one day you could have 20 million subscribers on YouTube, and then they could change the algorithm. I'm gonna butcher that. And all of a sudden, you're not popular, but you're still popular, but YouTube has determined you not to be so popular that particular day. And one day they could change it. So you gotta have something that you can fall back on. So whatever you do, you know, focus building and getting really good at what your boring day job does. And that way, social media doesn't have to work so hard to bring you that other side, right? We've talked about this
We've
before.
definitely talked about it. So Winnie, first of all, of course, is so wise, guys. So please follow her once again. I'm just going to sit here and just keep telling you to follow Winnie's son.
And Goldie Chan.
And Goldie Chan. But one of the things that most people don't know about me is, so I had a meteoric rise on LinkedIn over the last year and a half, but I also had over a decade of experience in social media marketing, and part of that was actually doing personal branding for C-level executives, as a ghostwriter, for some very recognizable people and brands. And that was my foundation that Winnie is talking about, that I still do client work, I still do strategic advising for different brands and individuals and things like that. But it also grounds you, I think, so you aren't excited by what might be fluff, right? Because it is very, very exciting to be the face of a brand, especially when you've never been that before. But it is so incredibly important to have something that backs it up, right? Especially if you are putting all of your effort and time and money, resources, etc., into becoming an influencer, someone that's well known, but then you don't have anything behind that too. You may not have the experience. It's very helpful to have something behind that. And that's why when I meet people and they're like, well, my goal in life is to become an influencer. And I'm like, well, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do? And they're like, nothing. I just want to be famous. I'm like, oh man, like unless you are, and some people are, right? We live in a lot of us live in Los Angeles, Southern California. Some of us are some of the most beautiful people on the planet, in which case you don't need talent. Great. But but if that's not the case, which unfortunately it is not the case for 99.999% of us, then you need something to back that up that has more longevity. And that is exactly what Winnie just talked about, which is having a field of expertise that you then base what you want to grow your influence on.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, this is exactly, Goldie, you're exactly right. I mean, I had the pleasure of working with this gentleman. Actually, I'm going to point him out, Justin Simon. Justin, say hello to everybody. So this gentleman is like, he actually came to my life around like, I don't know, maybe 3-4 years ago. And he really helped me hone in on what my message was. So I knew what I did for a living. I know what I do for a living, and I know what I wanted to do, but I really didn't know sort of how to clarify that message. And I think the first thing you ought to do when thinking about this sort of line of work, if you will, is to figure out what value you have for other people, and what do you hope to that your message delivers for you. And Justin really helped me kind of, I was like, I do this and I do that. I go, okay, hold on, woman. You do a lot of things. We need this. Justin Simon, hello, woman. Okay, all these things. This is what you do, and then this is what we need to get there. And then really having a process of not only, a lot of people create content, and then there's a lot of people that make amazing content. But I always call it can be vanity content. It could look like amazing, beautiful content, but if nobody sees it, then you're just making it for you and your mom to see. And my mom doesn't even look at my content most of the time, so that's kind of sad. So instead, you want to build that audience. I think Goldie is I think I'm going to put her on a spotlight for this. I think she is an amazing community builder, one of the best I've ever met. She's so great at bringing people together, not just in person, but actually on social media, which is a real art. And a science, I'm sure, too. I don't know how she does it. But she's able to bring in thousands of people at one time. And you have to have that in order to get there, because a brand doesn't want to work with you just because, like you said, unless you're really good looking, you're like Brad Pitt. Okay, most of the times the brand is looking for a business transaction. So you're looking at pairing up with you because they think 1 + 1 will equal 300 million impressions. They want so much more, and so you are the conduit to them to get more eyeball, which then hopefully indirectly or somehow will then generate more revenue for them. So that's why that's sort of my, actually Justin, you'll be very proud, this is one of my value propositions when I work with companies. I said, the nice thing about working with Goldie and I is we actually own and run our own businesses. And now I have 3 businesses right now. This is my second large business. I said, working with most influencers, you're just talking to people about delivering, and they create deliverables for you, A, B, and C, check, we're done. Difference with working with me, right? I run a multi-million-dollar business on my own financial practice. And therefore, when I decide to partner with a brand and create influence for that brand, I see it as, how can I help this business make more money? It's not just give me a check because I'm your influencer. Hi, I'm thinking wholeheartedly, how can I get Sally Mae to have more parents take a look at student loans and learn about the benefits of planning ahead? And I can go to work with Intuit and say, you know what, I use QuickBooks for my business, and this is the difference it's made for me. And therefore, other business owners, I get it. This is when you're managing, 8, 10 employees, and you're worrying about this and estimated taxes and, benefits and 401k and all this stuff. I get that. And so I will package that in the way that I share your message. So I think, that's what's nice about, Goldie works with Lego. I'm actually pretty jealous I have to work with Lego. She works with really, really cool brands. My brands are a little bit more traditional, right? You would say, more narrow focus, but I love it because they were me just 10 years ago.
But also, Winnie doesn't give herself enough credit because these are huge, these are massive brands, right? These are brands that we all recognize by name. And to get on the radar of those brands is really, really, really tough. And so what she's done, once again, with her brand, especially being someone who still actively works in the financial sector, is super, super, super impressive. I think I'm so glad when you brought up that you really need to make sure that you are giving brands exactly what it is that they need. I always say this, you want to give brands what they need and not necessarily what they say they want. So figuring out what an enterprise level brand really needs in terms of either if they need that conversion or they need brand awareness or whatever that factor is that they need, and being able to deliver and deliver super competently is so, so, so important. And I think that is one of the cornerstones of being a personal brand that people hire and bring on to be the face of a brand. And I think one big keyword is consistency. It's not the sexiest keyword out there, but if you have an incredibly consistent brand, brands like to work with you. Why? Because they know what they're going to get every single time.
Consistent.
They know that you will deliver a certain product and that you will present yourself. Also, if you're an ambassador for a brand and they have you go to an event, they want to know that you will act within certain parameters, right? That you won't absolutely go crazy and then live stream the whole thing. Although that would be interesting, but very terrible for the brand.
Right. Well, I know you've done that for LinkedIn. You
Yep.
represent LinkedIn at a lot of events
Yep.
for that reason. Yeah, I think you're right. The word consistency is critical here. But also just to, I mean, the thing is, the reality is that influencer marketing is successful for a reason. Will it always be that way? I don't know. And most importantly, I think it's really important just to always think about your plan B, because I'm really realistic on this. You know, right now I'm on TV. I always like sort of my business manager says, you know, Winnie's son is a financial advisor and she plays one on TV too. I think that's really true. But also, I may not be wanted to be on TV for that much. Like, I can't be on TV forever, right? I gotta be realistic about it. So
I'm going to watch you on TV forever.
we'll see, but I don't know. I don't know that I want to be on TV forever. But think about longevity and always think ahead. Like, what sort of businesses can I build from this? And not only that, is most importantly, understand your audience and what they want from you and what kind of value you can produce for them. Because if you can create value, then there'll be never a shortage of people wanting to work with you. And the nice thing is, one of the nice things about social media is everything can be proven. So you can see, like, for example, our tweet chat that we have every Wednesday, we average between 150 to 350 million impressions per hour. That eclipses even like the top performing shows on CNBC. So based on those numbers, people want to align with our tweet chat. You know, they're willing to spend money to sponsor.
And Winnie,
chat.
for people who don't know what a tweet chat is, can you explain it to everybody?
A tweet chat is, you know how when our president trends? Well, that's pretty much it, except that, you know, people are going in and saying, can you believe he said this? And yes, he said this. And well, we basically do that for an hour, but we pick about 15 questions, and our tweet chat is very uplifting and very positive. So we don't talk about politics, we don't talk about religion, everything is wholesome about business. So we talk about entrepreneurs, we talk about finance, business, and I'm drawing a blank.
Social media.
But it's all business related. So our community, our business owners or corporate executives, and a huge part of my community is people in the media for obvious reasons. You know, so like for example, those of you who may have seen me on CNBC or Cheddar last week know that the people that I work with, like on those shows, sometimes I'll have them on my tweet chat. And then what I think is nice about that is many of you who maybe are building a brand or a company, you might be like, if only the media would know who I am. I'd love to get featured, I don't know, in the LA Times or Wall Street Journal or something like that. Well, you can actually come to my tweet chat, because I actually do this thing called Meet the Media. Meet the media, because I get to hang out with them all the time, but it'd be great for you to get to know them. So a lot of people come to my tweet chats to meet new people. And I welcome that. And everybody comes in as someone new and leaves as a friend after you join our chat.
And one important thing about the Twitter platform that Winnie has nailed is basically Twitter is one of the best platforms to have direct access to media, to press.
It is.
So if you're ever looking to get more coverage on your brand, whether it's the brand that you run or your own personal brand, Twitter is such a good platform to be able to directly reach out to writers and creatives who are in the media and get access to them. And joining in on tweet chats like #WinnieSun is a great way to get direct access to those different things. I wanted to really briefly talk about LinkedIn.
I was going to actually segue that. I'm like, Goldie, I think you should talk about LinkedIn video, especially LinkedIn Live.
Sure. So one of the cool things that LinkedIn just released is LinkedIn Live, which is live streaming on the LinkedIn platform. And it's still in beta, so Winnie and I are both in the beta. It is very fascinating to me because I believe that live streaming is definitely the next thing that you should look at. So if you're thinking about what kind of content should I be creating next, what style of content, and you're thinking about video, live streaming is such an interesting thing to think about. And once again, follow one of our mutual friends, AI Addison Zhang, who's really interesting and is live streaming across multiple platforms and is doing really innovative stuff there. She's actually going to be speaking on my panel at VidCon on live streaming. So if you guys will be at VidCon, please come and watch that panel. There will be a lot of interesting talk on live streaming. But let's go back to LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, and Winnie does such a great job of connecting with others on LinkedIn.
Well, I'd love you to tell them, like, maybe some of the things that you've done on LinkedIn, especially, like, with the community you built. Like, I think those are interesting things because that's something I know you've taught me.
Well, I think LinkedIn, to me, obviously, LinkedIn has completely changed my life. And this is why, LinkedIn has me be essentially an ambassador for them, because I can go on stage and say, before 2 years ago, I was not me. I was someone else. And after 2 years, LinkedIn, like, I wear LinkedIn swag for fun and stuff. And I'm that person, like, other people wear like Nike hats and I'll wear like a LinkedIn hat. So I am hardcore repping the brand, so to speak. In fact, I don't know if you guys can see, but this is literally a pop socket, a LinkedIn pop socket from LinkedIn Toronto. That's how deep in the brand I am. It's not even LinkedIn US. But building a community on LinkedIn is so interesting. And I think LinkedIn as a platform is so important because, like Twitter is a great way to access press, LinkedIn is a great way to access decision makers. So if you're thinking about, for example, getting funding on a brand or a project that you're working on, or you want to get your next better job, or you just want to network with more people, LinkedIn is obviously the platform for that. It's been really traditionally known as a resume platform. And when I started doing videos on the platform, to me, I started out with this small cohort of other video creators who were on the beta together, and everybody was creating videos, and I thought it was really fun because everybody was like, oh, I'm just going to make videos, I'm going to throw it out there. And I thought, well, if I'm making videos, I'm going to encourage everyone else to also make videos. So that was really important for me, to always encourage new creators to create videos, to try to pull everybody together into one group so we could all talk and we could all kind of get together and know what maybe the best practices were and things like that. So I slowly became the mama bear of the LinkedIn creative community, which I think is such an honor and a responsibility, but it has been such a fun ride. But building a community on whatever platform suits you best is so important, and Winnie has obviously done this on Twitter. Excuse me.
Yeah, and she has a huge Facebook group and LinkedIn group and tons of people. But I mean, I think you're absolutely right. You've hit it on the building of the community is everything. And then once you have that, then you have a message that's very clear. And I would say that, you're absolutely right. LinkedIn is a great place to make decision makers. I would also say that if you have a big following, I'm fortunate because I have a decent following on Twitter, then decision makers will pay attention too, for sure. The nice thing about, I know we've worked with Adobe, both of us, and I think Adobe, they primarily focus on Twitter on when we're doing for their summit and whatnot for reasons that I thought I would share with you, is because on Twitter you can actually very easily figure out the analytics behind the success of a campaign. I think a lot of the social media channels are just as effective, if not more, but I think the data that they are able to capture maybe isn't quite as sophisticated just yet as Twitter. So, and Twitter, I mean, things move so quickly. So it's easy to grab people and whatnot.
And so when I work with brands, and I have the majority of my audiences on LinkedIn, and then I have a lot of really random things I post on other platforms. But when I'm talking to brands about LinkedIn, I always tell them, hey, I can't give you the kind of nuanced metrics that you could get off Twitter or Instagram or YouTube, etc. But what I can give you is a lot of brand awareness, and that is essentially getting a lot of spread of the brand across one platform because my videos are so commonly viewed. But it is so interesting to also think, and I'm going to put Winnie a little on the spot here because this is how Winnie and I are actually a little bit different. So Winnie is so forward-thinking, so strategic, so beautifully strategic because of her experience in working with all of these big brand names as clients and things like that. And I didn't get to where I am by being, quite honestly, that strategic. So I'm always looking what's the next big fun thing? And I think that's the difference in our main strategies as personal brands. Is Winnie is what is just going to be solidly good in 10 years? And I'm what is really fun to try out in the next 1 or 2 years and may explode, but I don't know. I think it's really fun to have these two very different approaches and then see how they, quite honestly, see how they play out. Because obviously you know, if you were going to write a book, what Winnie is doing is, you know, please follow that. But I think it's been really fun to be incredibly experimental. I know that when I got on LinkedIn Live, I immediately broke the product. Like, that was my goal. I was like, I'm going to break this product, LinkedIn video team. And we text, so we're quite close. But that was really important to me, to be like, okay, if you put me in the beta, I'm going to do really experimental content, because that's what you've brought me in for. And what I love is then on the other side, Winnie does really beautifully polished interview content that's super lovely and is a great example of, like, this is how you do polished content, versus I'm running around the wizarding world of Harry Potter in Florida talking about storytelling and probably breaking the product. So you can have two very different strategic approaches and actually ironically work with the same brand, but you have to understand what you are and who you are.
Your audience. I think what she basically said is Winnie is a lot older, but in the nicest way possible, in the Goldie fashion. But this is true. You know, I think, you know,
we're the same age. We're both 22.
Yeah,
it's on camera, so it's real.
I could only dream. No? But truthfully, I think you know, I work with very more traditional brands for sure, and I think because I do appear on traditional TV, it's on brand. You know, everything that we do. Like, for example, I do Cheddar, I do CNBC, I work with Asset TV, work with Bloomberg. I have a studio in-house. Our production quality is good enough that they call me all the time. I don't have to fly to New York all the time to film because the quality is so good in studio. Very fortunate. I think that's like exactly you. I think you have a way more fun than I do. I mean, I'm a mom of 3. I don't really have a lot of free time. I mean, so
22 and a mom of 3. Impressive.
I can only wish, right? Kids are young though. 10-year-old is my oldest. I have a 10, 7, and 5. But yeah, that doesn't mean much. But most importantly, I think it depends if it's on brand or it's not. Like, I'm all about really high quality content. I'm a stickler. Curtis, who you see in the room with the camera, has some expensive gear on him. He travels with me everywhere we go, and that's because I think, you know, my clients, I used to manage money for DreamWorks Animation. A lot of the executives there are still my personal clients. So there's a certain reputation on the things that I do. I don't really mess around. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it of the highest caliber. And so brands, when they work with me, they have that expectation. They know I'm going to show up on time. I'm always early. I don't drink. I don't even drink caffeine. I live like a monk, like a female monk. Is there such a thing? But really, like Goldie had said, there's a certain expectation, but also I think for me, it's been good because I don't work with small brands. I only work with the biggest of brands, and they understand what they're getting when they work with me, and together we go really, really well. So, you know, it's really cool. I wish I could be more like Goldie, because we both watch Game of Thrones, but she could actually, what's it called when you dress up?
I cosplay.
Cosplay. See,
Yeah.
this is, I am like, I know nothing cool. Okay. She is my channel of cool. But I watch the show on the TV when the kids go to sleep and watch but really, you can be who you are, and you should be who you are, and you should never discount that. You should never change for the sake of more followers or anything else. And I didn't actually know this. It took a while to figure this out. But when you really hone on who you are and you just focus on just being the best version that you can be, the right partners will come to you. It's so interesting because I was just at the New York Stock Exchange last week filming at Cheddar, and last time I was at the New York Stock Exchange, I was filming for CNBC, and I turned to my publicist. I said, "Man, life has changed." I remember when I was just like hoping we would get on CNBC again, like they would call me again. If only, like Justin remembers, if they would just call me again, I know I can do better next time. And now it's like, boom, boom, boom. We want you. How come she didn't do our show this time? Foxman's like, we saw Winnie in the room. How come she didn't do our show? Yeah. Like, whoa, what just happened? You know? And it took a lot of practice.
I'm going to interrupt you really quickly because I think you brought up such a good point, which is, and this is true in the world of dating too, everyone. When someone wants you, then everyone wants you. And that's true of brands. And it's funny because that's so relatable, right? But when a brand sees you on, say, the New York Stock Exchange and creating content, then all the similar brands in that ecosystem are going to also want to work with you. And this also happened to me when I spoke at Lego. And then when I went and talked with Sesame Street the next day, they were like,
cool.
I love Lego. And so like all the nerd brands that I work with in my universe, they all know each other and they like each other. And same thing with the
brands. You can't call
brands.
Sesame Street and Lego nerd brands, okay? I invest in them like no other. As a mom of 3 boys, that's got to be the coolest brand on the face of the planet.
See, this is also, Winnie invests in them for her children, and I invest in them for myself. But I will say I want to bring it to something more fun. Like there have been some really fun moments in working with brands, and I have to say one of the coolest moments for me in the last, outside of becoming Winnie's friend, one of the coolest moments in the last couple of years has been when I did go to Lego. I was one of their few Inspire speakers, which is a super heavily curated speaker program that they do, and one of the master builders built me my own custom Lego minifig, which is like a little mini green-haired Lego figurine of me. And I have to say, I'm not really impressed by a lot, but I was almost crying in that room with this tiny little Lego figure because it meant so much to me because it's so unique to also what I care about and the brands that I care about. And I know that when you've had some amazing moments like that with some of the brands that you've worked with as well.
Well, I think for me it goes personal because 3 months before I started college, my parents actually went bankrupt. They went financially bankrupt. Yeah. And so, I used to pay my Sallie Mae loan every single month. And I remember thinking, I just want to get done with college because I can't afford to be in school much longer. And so I had that loan from Sallie Mae, and I remember when I paid off how good I felt. And then Sallie Mae came to me and wanted to partner with me. And it was like sort of, I love all the brands. It's like choosing your children. All the brands I work with, I love. But Sallie Mae, now I'm like I talk about student loans. So it's great that we partner up, and it's really nice that they believe in me, but it means even more because I feel like together we're able to reach more students now and parents early on and figure out some of the financial challenges. So this is like financial geek. This kind of stuff gets to me, of like making a difference in the financial lives of how many people that watch our Facebook Live series. So we have Sallie Mae has a monthly Facebook Live, and it's filmed out of my studio. And people from all over the country join in on conversations. Like this month, we talked about how to get an internship for your student. So it's like little things. Those things make me happy. It's not so much like this big campaign. I loved working with Adobe, and Adobe was amazing. But they had the Goldie Chans of the world, which are a lot more sexy than the financial person, And so I could only do so much to kind of keep up, which is great. But in the financial world, to me, there's that heart or soul of working with a brand. Mm-hmm. And I'm still not comfortable with the whole word of influencer. If you ask me, I wouldn't call myself that, But at the end of the day, what does it really mean? It just means that you're sharing something that you really believe in, mm-hmm. and someone actually listens. So more than that is really that celebration of your communities, which I try to do as much as I can, but you get busy. So you got to do what you do, but it helps sort of multiply you and your message in a very efficient way so that you can spend time with your families. And so not all your time is spent creating content and like making phone calls, like we were just talking about earlier, cold calling and mass mailing. And that's like hard, asking people to fund your next project and give you money. Instead, you can do it on social media in a really smart way.
Yeah. And I think in the last minute, I'm just going to reiterate one of the things that Winnie said, which is it's so important to work with brands that you legitimately believe in. Like I legitimately believe in and love Lego and Sesame Street and Blizzard and all these other cool brands that I get to work with. And Winnie obviously really loves all the brands that she works with, like Sallie Mae. So it's also important that when you are thinking about partnering with a brand or you are interested in that that you pick brands that really mean something to you because it comes across, I believe, in the content. Okay, and I think we just wrapped up, so I think that's the end of this session, but maybe should we take one question from the audience? All right, so you had your hand up first. Oh.
My question is to Winnie. So I was thinking to reach out to some of these sponsored companies. You had leverage because you were in the finance world. My question to Goldie is, what was the leverage that you had when you reached out to some of these companies?
Oh, okay. Two questions. Okay. Well, you know what's fun is I didn't reach out to them. The first brand reached out to me, and even now the brands reach out. So I actually haven't done outbound seeking of brand work. I think once your work speaks for yourself and they know that you do, you have that platform. So the tweet chat gave us platform, and then I got ranked by Forbes, I got ranked by Investopedia, all these different publications as being, like Investopedia ranks me the #1 female, and then Forbes follow Working Mother magazine. So that sort of started it, and then I have had the pleasure of working with an incredible publicist on the media side. Yeah.
So I also have to say that most brands reach out to me. So this is usually how it happens. A brand will send me an email and be like, so you're really weird, but we love watching your videos and you somehow write for Forbes. And I'm like, great, cool, what do you want to do together? So this is actually very typically the conversation that I have with brands. I also very rarely cold reach out, but I am such a legitimate nerd. So what ends up happening is I will do something like I don't know, cosplay Game of Thrones, Daenerys Targaryen, no spoilers, and then Game of Thrones will do something like, hey, here, let's send you some swag, let's send you a poster because we see that you're a legitimate.
Poster.
Yeah, I
From
definitely
Game of Thrones?
I got a poster from Twitter. I tweeted them.
I want a Jon Snow poster, but on that note, I think there's nothing wrong with tagging brands. Actually, I should come back. So, for example, I travel a lot for business. Yeah. So, like, actually, I'm taking a flight right now to speak at the San Francisco Chamber tonight. And so what I'll do is I'll tag the airline, I'll tag the hotel. Hyatt found me because I'm a Hyatt fan. Mm-hmm. And so they fly me into their events and whatnot because I'm a fanboy of Hyatt. Mm-hmm. Fangirl. Sorry, but hopefully I answered your question. But the lady next to you had a question. I apologize. Maybe we could let her ask.
Yep. Oh, that was the question? Great. Okay, guys, so thank you so much for coming. Have a great #DigitalHollywood.